Hello. So I chose soccer for my critical assignment project because it is a sport where it is very injury prone. My husband played soccer in high school, and soccer was one of the sports I wanted to play growing up. But because it's so injury prone, my mother would not let me. So the factors that may cause injury in soccer are age, gender, and then the environment. So with age, it's due to the physical maturity. So I read a peer-reviewed article on a study done in the 80s. It was conducted at a soccer camp to analyze the risk of injury when grouped with age, physical maturity, and gender. There were over 600 kids at this camp, and the boys were analyzed off of immature, mature, or mature but tall and weak. And the mature with tall and weak would have been that the child had hit puberty, but their muscles weren't quite mature yet. And then the girls were just measured by age alone. There were over 200 injuries. There were 216 injuries. And when it came to gender, there wasn't a significant reading or a significant number. It was 107 girls and 109 boys. And but the age, it was significant because the study was conducted over 6 to 17-year-olds. And really, it showed that between 6 and 14, there weren't a lot of injuries, but 14 and up is when the injuries really skyrocketed. There were the most frequent injuries were in the boys with that were mature but tall and weak. With girls, there was no significance, and the most significant injury was ankle sprains. There were a lot of injuries that weren't due to soccer, but that doesn't read in the 216 number that I expressed earlier. The environment is very obvious. If you're practicing or having a game on a muddy, wet field, there's accidents that are bound to happen, unfortunately. Even if it's not muddy and wet and it's completely dry, if you have a rough surface or it's uneven or there are little holes or bumps in the surface, there's bound to be an ankle sprain because when you're running and your ankle turns just right up on that hole, I mean, anything can happen. The slippery ground, like I said, if it's muddy, and then if there are animals, I know the high school that I went to, there was woods behind our soccer field, and there was no fence, there was nothing to keep anything out of those woods from coming on to the field. And I mean, I lived in Georgia, so there were all kinds of animals coming out of those woods, possums or anything like that. And another thing with the environment is my husband, when he played soccer in high school, he hit a hole, and it didn't affect his ankle, which I'm sure he wished it would have at the time. In fact, it pulled his patella completely apart from his knee. So he had the ice on his knee, and then he saw his patella just slide over to the side of his leg. So he didn't play soccer again, and tons of surgeries later. He's fine now, obviously, but that has a lot to do with it, the environment and the groundwork. So the 3 common injuries that I chose were ankle sprains, MCL sprain, and ACL sprain. So we all know your typical ankle sprain. There's 3 grades: minor, microscopic tears, partial tear, and then complete tear. And that goes along with the MCL and ACL sprains. Your MCL is on the medial side of your leg, the inside, and then your ACL is in behind your patella, so it's inside the joint. So for the ankle sprain, you can see the anatomy there listed. Lots of ligaments, your talocrural joint, and then your MOI would be inversion of the plantar flexion, or your ankle being rolled inward. Preventative exercises would be a calf stretch, so when you're facing the table, and bringing your injured leg back, straightening it out, and leaning forward to get your calf stretched and the ligaments and tendons in your ankles to stretch up. And then an ankle strength for a rubber band. So you put the rubber band around your ankle and around a sturdy surface. And you would pull the ankle this way, pull it that way, forward, backwards. And you'd really just strengthen that ankle up. Your rehabilitative would be the towel stretch. So you put the towel around the ball of your foot and pull it back while your leg is straight. Slowly, obviously. 2 sets of 10 twice a day, and then pressing your injured foot against your non-injured foot and holding that for a few seconds. 2 sets of 10 twice a day. Your MCL sprain. So this means that you had a forceful collide on the inside of the knee that ruptured the medial side of your knee. So, I'm sorry, it's backwards. A forceful collide on the outside that ruptured the inside. And then some preventative exercises would be heel flexion with a heel slide. You can do that on any surface. You can lay supine and bring your heel in towards your gluteus maximus. You can wrap your opposite foot around your ankle and bring it in slowly. Obviously, you don't want to injure it even more. You can do the heel slide on the walls. You can do them sitting, and you can slide medial, lateral, front, back. You just slide slowly. And then for the rehabilitative, you do the heel slide seated, 2 sets of 10 twice a day, and then your straight leg raises. So you could do that seated, lying down, any way. And you would, if you wanted to do it laying down, you'd lay supine, and you would bring your leg up straight, completely straight. Your ACL sprain, so the ACL is within the tibiofemoral joint behind the patella. It's crossed over with your, so it's crossed like this with your PCL, and then this would be your ACL. And that sometimes, and most frequently, it's actually a non-contact injury. It's an individual stopping too soon, or pivoting, or jumping. It can be, obviously, it can be a contact injury, an injury due to anterior tibia impact. Preventative will be walking lunges or squats. You just want to make sure you're doing those correctly. Even with the lunges and both the lunge and the squat, you want to make sure your knee is behind your toes, that you're not overextending, you're doing them correctly. And when you're doing lunges, you want to make sure that you're not, when you come down, you don't want to pound your knee into the ground. You want to slightly rest. That synovial fluid behind the patella, the more you crash down while walking, doing a walking lunge, that fluid is dispersed, and you need that fluid for cushion. It's a cushion between your patella and your joint. And then the rehabilitative would be a seated hamstring stretch for 30 seconds, hold 3 times a day. So that's just sitting down, your injured leg out straight, you sitting straight up, your spine completely erect, and then leaning forward. Most common, people will slouch and then just bend forward, and they get no stretch in the hamstring to pull that ligament, the ACL. And then your quad set would be sitting flat, back up, your leg being completely out straight, and then flexing that quad, because the ACL gets flexed when you flex your quad. You do that, you'd hold it for about 3 seconds and do 2 sets of 10. This is my exercise video, the preventative and rehabilitative exercises. I know in the video I got my sprains mixed up, and I correct myself, obviously, in the video. It's the ankle sprain, then the MCL, and then the ACL sprain. I mixed it up and was trying to show you MCL sprain exercises, and I kept calling them ACL sprain. It's pregnancy brain. So, and then here are my references, and Dr. H, if you have any questions, just let me know. Thank you.